is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. Yeah. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. Yes. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. I'm crying, I feel like I'm dying.
Well, welcome back to season 2 of
Holy
Being
shit.
Human and Other Shit. Stacy and I had a lovely summer break, and we hope that all of you did too. We had a very romantic getaway together. We recharged.
Well, actually, it wasn't just us. It was also Frank and Michael too.
I was gonna say, and we met our soulmates that were middle-aged men versions of Stacy and I, and Michael and Frank have our hearts forever. Two bunch palms.
They know. They're gonna listen to this.
Yeah, I love it. So before we kick off, I just wanted to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral homelands of the Nisenan people and the Miwok people, and we acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. And we have Matty here, and Stacy's going to introduce him for us.
Yes, my homie Matt. We've been friends, a long time. Since Aeropostale. Is that store even still open?
Yeah, I think so. It's still doing its thing.
Selling shirts for like $1 and then people still asking for a discount.
Yeah, people still stealing from them and then selling it at the flea market for like
16.
What's our job, like watching people? Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna talk to Matt about his journey. It sounds like a long journey with a lot of cool shit that we're super into. We actually started talking about it before, and then we're like, stop, we're gonna record. Yeah, hold on. So yeah, so like everything else, we're gonna jump right into it with just some background, like where you grew up, siblings, your guys' socioeconomic status, kind of how that impacted you today,
Well, all right, first off, the two of you, thank you so much, for creating space, for humans, and wanting to share people who are being their most authentic human self with the world. So thank you so much for that.
Of course, we love it. Thank you for being here.
So honored. But yeah, my name is Matt Stockton. I go by he, him pronouns,
Okay.
I born in LA, raised in Stockton. My family story is kind of interesting. It's kind of unique. My parents grew up across the street from each other on the south side of Stockton. So my dad has known my mom her whole entire life. They were childhood friends. All of my aunts and uncles went to the same schools together from both sides. So I was born into this like puddle of love, so my childhood holidays looked like me running back and forth, from grandparents' house to grandparents' house to different families and stuff. And it was cool, and to just to be raised in that, and to go to school and to know that all of my aunts and uncles went to the same schools I went to on the south side, and already like all my teachers knowing who I was already just because of my last name. And so I really couldn't do anything like no big things, because I had all these eyes on me and stuff.
You got to do it on the low.
Yeah. But my ethnic background, my mom is Black, my dad is Filipino. My dad's side, on the Filipino side, I'm Visayan. There's a lot of Filipino roots here in Stockton through Little Manila. The first wave of Filipinos that came over to America is my family tree, so I'm fourth generation Filipino American here, which not a lot of people get to say. Unfortunate I didn't learn the language because I was part of the generation that was assimilating to the white man, in order for us to be able to assimilate into the culture. But that is part of my Filipino-American story. That's one of the reasons why I don't speak my native tongue. On my mom's side, a lot of family roots here in Stockton, Arizona, and Chicago, I've learned lately. But of course, it doesn't go as far back as my Filipino side because they weren't taking notes during slavery, But yeah, to be someone of those two ethnic backgrounds, to be raised in South Stockton, to be raised poor, to be queer, to be all of these slashes, and now to be in a position in downtown Stockton, where I'm a community organizer, where I kind of have my hands in the queer community, the BIPOC community, the entrepreneurial community, the creative arts community, and the health and wellness community.
So you're basically just living Melissa and I's dream.
I was like, you're still all these slashes.
A lot of slashes. Yeah. And yeah, I let's see where it goes. You know, I say yes to everything until I can't do that anymore. So my bandwidth is pretty thin right now, and I'm learning the power of saying no.
Well, thank you for saying yes to us.
Yeah. So I have to be very strategic. I was like, okay, does this feel my soul, you know, or does it want something for me, you know, is this going to be reciprocated, you know? So I learned how to say yes to the right things, you know, and this is definitely, it was a quick yes for me.
It really was. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm into this.
Let's run it. Let's go. But yeah, so this is kind of where I'm at now, you know, just being the human that I am and realizing the gifts that I do have and realizing I have a responsibility to share it with my community, you know, so that more folks that are from Stockton know that they don't have to have that mentality of just because you're from Stockton, your life is shitty. You know, it's about having that awareness of, okay, there's always going to be evil shit that's happening in the city. There's always going to be people doing big things in the city, but then you can make that internal choice to be part of that or be part of the change that you want to see. You know, it's kind of cliche, but like it starts with conversations like this. And we've gotten a lot of folks. I say we because I'm not the only one that's doing this type of work in Stockton, but just to hear people say like, wow, like you're from Stockton and you see Stockton this way. I'm all, yeah, like our city's beautiful, you know, or wow, like this is where you were. I never thought downtown like looked like this or consisted of this. I go, yeah, like this is Stockton. Now you have a responsibility to go and share this with the next person you encounter, or having the wherewithal to tell people, so you see what you feel right now? That feeling that you have right now, have you ever felt that in Stockton before? They're like, no. I go, this is real, you know, like now share that feeling that you have right now with someone else now, you know. And in turn, I've heard that people are starting to stick up for our city, you know, and start talking in terms of when someone says, oh, you're from Stockton, I'm sorry, you know, they're like, oh, pump your brakes. You know, we have a lot of good shit happening for us. We have A, B, C, all of these great things.
First of all, y'all have a mummy at Hagen Museum, okay?
I have a mummy.
I grew up, my dad was on Persian and Country Club.
Yeah.
So like I grew up in Lodi, I went to Lodi schools, but partially was in Stockton too. That's where all my,
the Hagen is cracking, man.
We stayed there, we were there every weekend.
Yes, it's beautiful that they like remodeled it. And we also have the Stockton Historic Museum that's in Mickey's Grove that has a bunch of history of Stockton. So there's a lot of things to be proud of. You know, it just takes folks like us to kind of bridge that gap between what makes the city beautiful and the folks that actually need to hear this information so they can stop talking shit about ourselves and actually get some civic pride, you know, which turns into civic engagement, you know, but that usually starts with the baseline of healing. Right. It's part of the healing. And a lot of us realize that Stockton needs to heal still. We have PTSD. We have PTSD from, you know, decades long of like being in the mud and being drugged through the mud through the media, like being the most miserable city in the United States, according to Forbes magazine. The highest crime rate in the nation before, you know, we're teetering between like us, DC and Oakland for like a really long time, you know, epicenter of the housing crisis in 2008. Like, so we had all of these things we were going through, but then there were folks like me who were like, man, despite all that shit, I still love this city, you know?
I think that's so important though, like to see what can happen if we shift from shame to pride, like what that city will turn into. And what it can be, you know. Yeah,
and then you get through that shame by having the courage to be vulnerable, you know. And that vulnerability looks like, I know, like I know this is who we are, you know. But despite knowing who we are, like to the rest of the world, I'm choosing to be this.
Yeah, well, it's also probably hard too because I think like anything in life, this could apply for work, you know, personal life. If people don't have a growth mindset, you're basically like just you're fighting, you're going against a wall. right? Because it's like, yes, Stockton does have all this stuff, but at the same time, I feel like the older generation is saying you're gentrifying, and then you have the newer generations like, okay, but we're also bringing in business. We're also like trying to do all these positive things and look at our city in a different light. And like Melissa said, transition to like a loving mindset versus like, this is just how it's always going to be,
I love how you said the G word, because when I was starting all of this work, there were a lot of people who were afraid, like, oh, they're just trying to come in and gentrify stuff. And I was like, can we let's change that narrative, right? Like, is gentrification still about, because I think that it was synonymous with outside people were coming in, pushing people out. And then all of these new things, that wasn't a reflection of the city, were now sprouting out everywhere. I go, would it be a bad thing if the positive changes that were being made in the city were being done by the people in which that live here? So that was kind of my combatant for years, and that was the stream I was swimming up for a really long time, until people were like, you know what, Matt's onto something, or the folks downtown, or the folks in the Miracle Mile, the folks on Yosemite Street, they're onto something.
I'm glad you're saying those specific areas, because so many people I know, even people that grew up in Stockton, they're like, we don't go past March Lane. That's it. And like, I actually worked downtown at the Starbucks, like when it was there, I opened it, and I loved working down there.
Dude.
And I would be leading work at like sometimes like 1 a.m. and people would be like, you nervous? I'm like, no, the 2 bike cops would like take us to our car, but like we didn't have any problems,
I'm glad you said that, because a couple of years ago, when we moved into this new space, one of the folks we housed in our conference room for the first time were like all of the admins from EOP. Right. And so I heard up until that point that they were telling their incoming freshmen, don't go south of Harding, because it's desolate, there's crime, there's homelessness, like all this shit. Right. And then when they utilized our space, I was like, yeah, you guys can use it for free. They're like, oh, really? I go, yeah. In exchange? Like, what do you mean? I go, can you stop telling your incoming freshmen not to go south of Harding, because places like this exist south of Harding.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll see what we can do. The very next year, I started having interns, from UOP, some freshmen too. And I was like, hey, so in your freshman orientation, did they tell you anything about south of Harding? And they're like, no. They encouraged us to go downtown. I'm like,
okay.
So I those are some of the things that I cherish, because all it takes is a simple conversation and a simple tour of like, hey, what's actually happening down here, for a huge organization like EOP, a private college that's buku expensive, to start changing their narrative and changing the perspective for their students of Stockton. And in hindsight, this is all part of the healing process.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. Is this what motivated you? Just like being in your city, finding pride in your city, or was it just?
Yeah, I think it was the catalyst, it was definitely kind of the foundation of my own personal journey, always thinking like, okay, I'm doing all this work for my community, or I'm doing X, Y, and Z for all of these people. But the thing about it, the whole entire time that I finally learned recently, is that I was separating myself from the community. Like I felt like I was the one that was doing the work, but I was doing the work for everyone else.
Yeah.
So as soon as I changed the internal narrative to I am part of the we, then that's when my own personal healing started. You know, and that was literally back in November. Like that's how recent it was.
Yeah.
It was the day after my 41st birthday.
Yes. Still got it too.
I have all these gray hairs, and I earn every one of these motherfuckers.
Yes,
right? So,
wear them with pride, baby.
Silver fox, silver fox.
But that's kind of when it started, and it was like, no, wait, I'm a part of all of this too. Like I need to be healing just as much as I want my community to heal. So what does that look like?
Yeah.
I met these amazing people, who, for lack of a better term, were just like the most spiritual people I've ever met, like they're beautiful inside and out. They just seem like they were just floating, you know. I'm just like, where are you from? They're like, I'm living here in Stockton. I was like, how did you end up in Stockton? You know, so these were the type of conversations I was having with these people, and this meeting was extremely organic, you know, and it just flowed, and we all spoke the same language, and it was a beautiful journey, you know. And it started with me just figuring out, like, okay, what do I love? You know, what fills my soul? What do I love to do? You know, and I remembered that I love being creative. I love creating art. I love sharpening that creative sword that I have. But that what I was doing in the past, you know, that for several years with my family, being a part of a Tahitian dance group, like I was sharpening that creative sword for decades until you know, 2015, 2016, when I decided to step back and realize, okay, I need to be living my own life and not all of this.
Yeah, because that was a family thing, right? Like I had actually told Melissa, I'm like, don't you have a sister that's like a world champ?
Yeah, she's a world champ. I mean, those are beautiful days, beautiful memories, you know, being able to cultivate and kind of perpetuate a culture that's not mine, you know, for so long, and making these long lasting friendships, and just learning to trust my creativity right on the spot. Like that's one of the best things I learned from that experience. And of course, all the people that I've met all around the world. But it's been really a long time since I've been creative, you know, being in this whole entrepreneurial ecosystem, you know. I mean, I was being creative in terms of what we can do for the community, but I wasn't doing anything for myself. Yeah. You know, and I suddenly just picked up a paintbrush one day, you know, and it was beckoning me. It was sitting out on a table at one of my friend's house I was crashing at the time. And I was like, I'm just gonna fucking do this, you know? So I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm just gonna do it. So I got it all set up, and I just started painting, you know, and I realized, like, kind of shit. Like after I had that first piece, I just sat back and I looked at it. I was like, who the fuck created that? You know, like I didn't understand like what was going on here. And so I just kept going. And then folks who I'd been surrounding myself with, they were coming to the house and witnessing and kind of just observing the art that I was making. They're like, well, explain this to me, you know? And I'm like, well, I'll go on these long tangents about what it's about. And they're like, you should hang this up. Like, or you should like keep doing this. I was like, you think so? You know, so like I long story short, by creating art, I finally found the balance in life, because I was doing things for other people all the time. And this was the first time in a really long time I was doing something beautiful, like for myself, you know, and that was kind of an attestation of me being a part of the community that I'm trying to help, you know, and then that just kickstarted like all these other things, you know, like my meditation, realizing that painting was a form of meditation. And then I was like, if I could do this like with painting, like can I actually sit down and concentrate and like meditate by myself, like a self-guided meditation? And then it led to like, okay, what else can I do to heal? Like breath work. I was like, let's just try this breath work thing out, you know? And just some of the things that I was overcoming in my breath work sessions, I was like, whoa.
Were you doing guided breath work, like with somebody?
With someone, yeah. So the way that the breath work sessions work is that one of my very best friends, she is a breathwork. She's from Spain. Her name is Encarnacion.
I was gonna say, plug all these people so that people know.
Her name is Encarnacion. She's on Instagram at Just Breathe. She came to Stockton energetically and felt like when she got here, like there was this force here that she needed to be a part of. She's nomadic. She's been all over the world. And she was in Dubai before she came to Stockton, you know, and like now lives in Stockton because of all the people and all the energy that's here. But we got into it, you know, and she basically, that first session helped me get in touch with my inner child, you know, and kind of embrace my inner child and let him know, like, boy, you're okay, like I got you, you know, while simultaneously surrendering to my higher self, like the version of myself that I'm trying to become, and realizing that that person already exists and he's my biggest cheerleader, and to realize that, like, okay, like, I'm going to let you embrace me too. Like, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you that, like, the path that I'm on right now is the right path, while simultaneously, like, healing the younger version of myself. Such a beautiful moment. Of course, the waterworks were like, oh my God, I got this happening.
That breakthrough, like when you have a breakthrough like that, it is so intense.
It's intense. And I didn't even know, I mean, it was a spiritual experience for me, but I didn't know that that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. It kick-started my level of awareness on who I want to become spiritually, what kind of human being I want to become, what type of I know that I love everybody, but how do I want to show my love?
You really do, Matt. I will say that about you, like being friends with you and hanging out with you outside of work, and even like your sister, and then like being with you in a profession, like you are 100% somebody that radiates joy and love.
Yeah. And
so it's like, an even better version of yourself. I'm like, I can't wait to even meet this dude, because
heightened from 10 years ago.
Right?
It's so crazy that you say that, because like I subconsciously was that person. It wasn't intentional. It was more like, I was like, let's just have fun, guys. Like, I love all of guys, But then back in January this year, I went to a hot spring for the very first time, and I didn't know what to expect. I was like, all right, well, I'll be naked in front of all these people. This is great, I had the spiritual experience of my life at a hot spring. And I went with 3 other friends, and there was just this moment, as we were like heading back to the car, I just had this feeling, and I looked at my 3 friends, and they were just like being childlike, not on the same level. And I'm like, something's happening right now. I don't know what's happening, but I feel a lot different than my friends right now.
Yeah.
And long story short, I was having a spiritual experience right there in front of all of my friends. And I was so lucky to have them with me to kind of guide me through this, and I was just describing like how I was feeling and what I was seeing when I was closing my eyes, and when I finally came to, and I finally realized what I was supposed to learn from that experience, the first thing out of my mouth was, I am love.
Yeah.
I am love.
Yeah.
I am love.
I thought it was going to be y'all ain't on my level, so I got to go.
I'm trying to make everybody on my level, like I am love. And I was saying, you are love. We are love. Like humanity is the love in the world. Like when the higher power, when God, when the universe, spirit, had that level of awareness that it wanted to experience love, that's where I believe humanity was created. Humanity, I mean, yeah, we see it in like the animal kingdom, these the affection and stuff, but like the consciousness of love is in humanity, I believe. We're the ones that like can find the words to tell people what love is, and it's so wild to think that if you go on my Instagram right now, like I only have 1 photo up, which is a screenshot, of a tweet that I did like right after, like we are love, like humanity is the love in the world, we should act accordingly, and ever since then, I've been sharing this story with as many people as possible. And then in that, learning that there are other human beings that have had the same spiritual experience I have had. And they're all in my life right now, that are in Stockton right now, that just all have to be in my life. Like all of these folks that have these spiritual experience where they come to and realize that like they are love, we've all found each other, and
that's just how it happens too.
It's so insane, right?
You see it, yeah.
You just gravitate towards each other as these beings of love and these beings of light, and when you congregate together and you get all like giddy and childlike, oh my God, this is so fun. Like we're all we do blue. But then like there's a realization that there's a responsibility that comes along with that, you know, and we've learned that the responsibility is like, we need to be sharing this. We need to be love, you know, and define what being love is. You know, it's in how you treat people. It's in, you know, it's how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like
I think that's the biggest thing that I really want to push, because I think so many, you know, like spirituality is something that's becoming really popular for good reason, right? The last couple of years. And I think through COVID, through the last administration, like people are really like having a hard time in seeking out that, like, I need this love. I need to like this community. But I think the biggest thing that I always want to emphasize is it does always start from within. And that's something that we're all always going to be working on. Like Melissa and I, actually, the romantic vacation she's talking about, we went to a hot springs resort. That's why we were giggling. Yeah. Which is so funny. 2 Bunch Palms, best place ever. If you haven't been there, like
we weren't naked.
We weren't naked yet, but maybe next time.
I tried to get her to take her bathing suit off, but she wouldn't.
I was like, no, bitch, stop trying to see my boobs. But yeah, so like, I think a lot of like, even Heather, who's, you know, a spiritual guy that Melissa and I both go to, and we've had her on a couple times. That has been her theme every session I've had with her. Like, Stacey, it starts within, you know, like you can't you can't take care of other people if you're not yourself, not even 100%, but if you're not taking care of yourself and honoring yourself.
That's the hard reality.
Right.
That's the hard reality too, because we walk around like thinking that we're these loving people, but we're treating ourselves like trash sometimes. And you're like, no, you can like express love and whatever, but how authentic is it if you're really not even reflecting that back on yourself? You're
absolutely right. It starts from within. And I've learned once you kickstarted your own personal healing journey, you kind of get spoiled, you know, in terms of like what you're going to tolerate or what you want to surround yourself. You start to realize that the people in your life are a reflection of who you are. So these folks are reflecting toxicity, talking behind people's back, they're down talking themselves. You can make that internal choice to be like, okay, please don't do that. Like, I'm going to try my best to try to change you, or you can just change the scenery, you know, and put out those vibes so that you can attract the folks that mirror who you know you are, or who you want to be, or the love that you are. And you guys are absolutely right. It starts with yourself. And once you start that healing journey on yourself, you're going to want to surround yourself with people who are putting in the work. You know, and you're going to be able to feel that gut instinct when someone's around you and they're not doing the work, or they're just BSing, you know, they're just fronting, and I'm just like, okay, you got a lot of work to do, you know. And I'm speaking from experience. There are close relatives in my life, you know, that I can't even be around because they haven't made that internal choice to do the work.
Such a common theme, I feel like, in all our episodes, especially the early ones from last season, that I think Melissa and I both could say we've gone through a lot of like changes that were happening, maybe even like not long before we started this podcast. And then just like what we've put out, like I've, you know, had friendships end, same like close family members. I'm just like, yo, I can't. And I 100% probably don't handle it the way you two loving people do. You know, everybody knows I got a fiery ass personality. And that's like, you know, even recently I just had a conflict with somebody, and I was upset with myself. Like, I did not handle that the way that I would want to have handled it, which would be more loving, right? Like I stepped out of my character, like, yo, and then I try to be like this person. It's like, no, this person can't make me do anything. Like, clearly I had some more work. I mean, we always have work to do, but like, I need to check myself. So I'm glad you addressed that, because I do think people don't talk enough about what also negative comes with when you are trying to be the higher version of yourself. There is a lot of shit of people who are fighting it. And it's like, let me grow, like, let me grow, please, you know?
It is a healing journey.
It's a journey. It never ends, you know? I'm never going to think like, oh, I'm hella healed, you know?
Okay.
Like that's never going to be that.
I'm hella healed.
Hella healed, y'all. It's an awareness of the folks who aren't doing the work. Like they want to hold on to an older version of you.
Mhm.
or the version that they're used to, because that version of you it's controllable, it's safe to them, and so there's gonna be a time eventually when that person, the people in our lives that are holding on to older version of ourselves, will start their healing journey, and then that moment of reintroducing ourselves as healed adults will finally like present itself, but it just takes a little patience, and I love that you brought that up, Stace, about like, like feeling like you had like that like an off moment by allowing yourself to get mad at someone, and it's all part of it. It's kind of that the darkness that I was talking about in the post, about the things you actually have to go through, and the situations that are a huge mirror of like the things you actually need to work on, and who you are as a person, and a mirror to the things that you internally want to change about yourself, and those are the things a lot of people are afraid of. That was what I was afraid of, and one of the things that I learned that I need to work on is my relationship with my finances, my relationship with money, and like making sure I'm diving into the derivative of that, the whole scarcity mindset opposed to a mindset of abundance, and change my relationship to that. That was like kind of like the biggest red flag for me. And then another one was my relationship to dating, and why I always go for these men that are unavailable or straight, or I know that it's always going to be unrequited.
Talking my language right now.
Yeah. And I realized it was two things: my internalized homophobia, which we'll get into in a second, and a way to protect myself, which is a shit show, right? I learned that I only would fall for straight men and all of these things because it was easier for me to be heartbroken by these individuals who can never love me back, rather than, taking a chance on a man or a partner that can potentially feel the same way about me and be hurt by them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the mindfuck I was putting myself in for decades, and then on the internalized homophobia side, it was a derivative of, growing up in the 90s, and the AIDS epidemic, and like seeing uncles pass away from it, and it being scared, and looking down on people who were expressing their sexuality and being promiscuous. I'm just like, oh my God, aren't you like scared?
Yeah.
What if you're gonna catch something? So like that bubbled into, like, I'm not gonna explore that. I'm not gonna put that out there. I don't want people judging me how I'm judging all these fools who are like super open with their sexuality and stuff. And so I was low key, just doing things here and there, just in the dark, because like it was safer image wise, and that coupled with this mindfuck I was doing on myself of only, allowing myself to have feelings for unavailable men, I'm still like ironing all those details out. But as of recently, learning that this is something I need to work on, and actually starting the healing process of my internalized homophobia, it's like it's opened up the floodgates for my attraction to like out and proud gay men. And I'm just like, where did y'all come from? Like they're like,
we've been here the whole time.
Where have you been hiding?
It's just like the awareness has changed, and you're just like, oh, okay, I see you, so it's like the possibilities are endless now. And so I'm trying my best not to be a slut, so I'm just like, I want to have those standards.
Listen, let your flag fly.
I know. I'm not slut shaming or anything. I gotta bring that back. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am right now. And so that healing journey is actually, seeing for humans for who they are, and realizing there's a whole community of folks out there, that can actually reciprocate the love that I can give romantically. And it's a little overwhelming, but it's exciting too, so it's this blank canvas of dating, and the pool, so to speak. And I'm really excited. Like I'm in a spot right now where I'm super ready for anything. So if you're listening, that's good.
I was literally just gonna say, so you're in these streets.
Hey, I plugged myself. Don't worry.
You did. You know what? And
So,
now she's got an amazing
It works.
Find me on Instagram, all of that jazz. But I'm on Hinge, so I
better watch a YouTube. He's so cute.
Okay,
Yep.
better do it. I'm an equal opportunity employer.
Can I ask you, because in the beginning you said like you felt like you grew up in this like love puddle between, your families and stuff. And then now fast forward, you really started your healing journey or dug deeper into your healing journey at age 40. Do you feel like, was it just like a lot of external love and not a lot of self-love that you saw within your family? And then did culture or religion play any part of that? Was that heavy? Sorry.
Yeah. I love heavy.
Let's unpack this.
Yeah. So the love that I experienced was all external.
Yeah.
And I was surrounded by many people who didn't know what it meant to love themselves or to be kind to themselves. And it was based on religion. I grew up Catholic, and there was even a time where I thought I was going to become a priest. Oof. And I started discerning, a couple years ago, and thought like, this is going to be my path. I'm going to be a priest. I'm gonna put those feelings away. Being gay, all that jazz. But it was the guilt, the self-suffering, that is synonymous with being Catholic. That was apparent in all of my life, but then I started realizing, I was like, it doesn't look like anyone in my family is like genuinely happy.
Yeah.
And especially the ones who were like devout Catholics and practicing and holy rollers, going to church and doing all the youth groups and all that jazz. And so I was just like, I know where this road leads. I don't want to walk that path. So it did contribute to a lot of the self-loathing that I had as an adult in my 30s, and my 20s and my 30s. And it wasn't until I kind of like separated myself from all of that and realized, okay, I need to figure this out on my own. I know I have examples in my life that have about this whole religion and spiritual journey their whole entire lives, and I'm using them as an example of like where I want my life to be. That's what I was actually doing, and realizing, okay, I'm utilizing these people as mirrors right now. And it wasn't until I actually pushed all that to the side and had the courage to live my own life and kind of pave my own path, is when I started discovering all of these things. And like 40 was an interesting year, and a lot of heartbreak, a lot of internalized, introspection, just thinking a lot, but not implementing it.
Yeah.
41 has been the age so far of implementation, and trying the complete opposite of what I've been doing, for the past couple of decades, and having the courage to jump without a net when it comes to my own life and just trying new things. And I'm extremely proud of myself for that. And to look back now, like, thank you for asking this question, because it's making me reflect on my actual spiritual journey, where it started and where it's become, or what it's become today. And maybe I would have had this a little bit sooner if I didn't have, that type of experience. But I appreciate everything I've experienced up until this point, because it's molded me and kind of influenced all of these beautiful decisions that I'm making for my life today. And yeah, it's something, and when I go to a family party now these days, I give myself a little pep talk. I go, what you're walking into right now, Matt. Just be the love that you are, be the light that you are, and shine as bright as you can around your family. And lately, the past couple of family parties, I have a bunch of younger cousins because I'm like the eldest of like 30 something grandkids. You know, I have
Heard that.
Yeah,
Sitting at the kids' table.
yeah, sitting at the kids' table at all the weddings, it's me, right? So I have some cousins that are young adults and will come up to me these past couple family parties, and they just like, they're so mad, like, so like I've been seeing your posts and just like, so I'm trying to do this, and then I just utilize that situation to just love on them, you know, and try to inspire them to, you know, see the world the way I see the world, and then they walk away like, oh my god, oh my god. I'm just like, wow, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to change the lives and the hearts of all my older aunts and uncles and my grandparents and stuff, but there's an opportunity to be a positive influence on all my cousins, you know.
I think
'Cause they're the
that's
future of our
important.
family.
Yeah, that's important too. And it's something that I've had to like teach myself and tell myself that like you may not influence your 90-year-old grandma, and you may not like they've lived 90 years of like feeling, seeing, thinking a certain kind of way, and they surprise us too sometimes, but it's like, let's not put all of our energy and efforts into that.
Yeah, you create that space for them to be who they are.
Yeah.
You know, create the space for them to be who they are while simultaneously intentionally creating a space, you know, for my younger cousins who are seeking something.
Yeah.
You know, so it is a balancing act when I go to family parties, but it's beautiful. You know?
It's also like give your family time to like catch up. Like sometime when I came out, my grandma didn't understand it, and then she like was like, "I love you, and I don't care. It is what it is," you know. Like,
yeah.
And it was a weird. My story was a weird situation. So there's a lot of other factors besides. It's like, oh, and now I'm dating this person that everybody knows, you know. So it was like they had to catch up, and some people didn't catch up, and they're not a part of my life, and I just love them from a distance, you know. And that's what we have to do sometimes.
I think that's key. Loving from a distance,
right? Like,
perfect way of putting it.
It's still love, but like you don't get access to me, and that's just what it is, you know. And I think protecting yourself is a form of loving yourself as well. When you kind of is like, you know, I got to throw in the towel in this relationship, and it's not that I don't love you and cherish, because I don't know if you experienced this, Matt, but I always get that shame, like, oh, you don't go against the family, and it's loyalty, and it's like, yeah, well, I do have loyalty, but remember, I'm loyal to this bitch before I'm loyal to anybody. Okay, she's first, and then everybody else falls in line, you know. And people don't like hearing that because that's not what is ingrained in us from children.
Yeah. You're right. I love how you brought up shame, you know, in terms of like family and stuff. And I think now that's where a lot of my internalized homophobia came from as well. You know, it's being ashamed of myself.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Yeah, I was ashamed of myself for being gay, you know, and being queer. Like, so once I got over that shame by being vulnerable, you know, about who I am, and realizing, you know, this is who I am. I'm not going to try to play a part to please other people, you know, because I'm not living my life for myself, you know. And I love what you said about like loving from a distance. It's because and how to love yourself while doing that. I mean, part of this journey has been redefining what it means to be kind to myself, you know, and it means, you know, only granting access to folks, granting access to me to folks who are going to celebrate me and not tolerate me. You know, only allow myself to be in rooms where I'm celebrated and not tolerated, you know, and to welcome folks, you know, open-heartedly when they are ready to meet this version of me, you know, and do it with humility at the same time. Yeah, you know, because realizing I am love, I also realize there are no levels, you know, like I'm not up here and someone else is down here, you know, like we're all on the same level. We're just seeing the world a little differently right now, you know, and but in order to have access to me, in order to be in my life, there are just a couple of things that folks got to work on themselves first.
Yeah, because your shit can't affect me. Like, that's my biggest thing is like, I feel like when people just come at you with like negativity, with like going back to the, you know, this is who you used to be, that's just, I'm literally absorbing that. Right. And then you start going back to like, I don't know about you, but like there has been times when I've second guessed myself where I'm like, dude, like, why is everybody, am I the one that's wrong? Like,
Am I the drama?
Yeah, am I the drama? No, seriously. No, it's dead ass. I'm like, somebody have me question, like, dude, is it me? Like, am I hard to, am I set in how I think? And that's what it is. And then, I wake up and realize who the fuck I am again. And I'm like, no, I'm leading with intention. And that's the only thing I could really do,
You're absolutely right. Checking in with yourself, checking yourself to make sure it isn't you. I mean, that's part of the healing process as well. And I love how you brought up like absorbing, people's energies and stuff, because I've actually like pushed some people away out of fear of absorbing their negative energy. I just met someone yesterday because I did a breath workshop. I attended one yesterday morning, and there was a psychologist there who'd been practicing psychology for like 20, 30 years or something like that. And I told her about this situation to where I was dating, I was dating a trans person. So we could set that to the side.
Yeah. I want to hear that.
Yeah. So I was telling them that like we were hanging out, and it was an extremely new experience for me, being this person on their healing journey, and being with someone who was super great at communication and expressing their feelings and stuff. But then I realized this person had really heavy feelings, and they had the courage to express their feelings at any moment, and that wasn't something I was used to. They asked for consent. It was like, is it okay if I like cry for like 10 minutes, while you embrace me? I'm like, okay, this is new. Like, all right, let's try this.
Like, I'm brushing my teeth. Like,
I know, yeah. Wow, can I finish my food first?
I'm pooping right now. Leave me alone.
Wait like 5 minutes, please. Yeah. So there was a time where there was something really major happening in their lives with their family, and it was simultaneously during a time where I was getting all this great news, so it was definitely off in terms of where our lives are at. So I told them, I was like, after a long weekend of hanging out, I told them, I was like, I apologize if you needed something from me this weekend and I wasn't able to give it to you, like emotionally and, mentally and spiritually. I go, because I'm being intentional about like not absorbing your energy, and I just want to be like upfront about that. And I want to give you your space to feel your whatever you're feeling, but at the same time, I'm trying to protect myself. So I'm teeter-tottering like back and forth on that. So I feel like I owe you an apology, and they were super understanding of that. But when I spoke to the woman yesterday about that situation, she was just like, well, the more you're on your healing journey and the more you are aware of what you are capable of, there's going to be a point in time where you can do both. You've healed so much that you can still protect yourself while simultaneously creating space for someone else to feel whatever they're feeling without absorbing their energy. And I'm just like, well, I can't wait to be that version of myself, because I'm infamous, for being an empath, and feeling these energies, and to know that if I keep doing this work, there's going to be a time where I can intentionally create space for the people that I care about in my life without like pushing them away, and being able to embrace them, without absorbing them. So that's my current journey that I'm on right now. But that's just to piggyback off of what you were saying about the negative and the absorbing and stuff. Like, there is going to be a time where you are going to be capable of doing both. I learned yesterday.
Wait, I love
that.
Sorry to interrupt, but I love that you said too that you spoke to somebody who's a psychologist, because I do also feel like when we talk about like our spiritual healing, for me personally, I also still do traditional therapy. I actually just got super into like my attachment style, and I'm like switching over to like somebody that's more like suited for that. But I feel like when people like, Melissa and I aren't just like, doing crystals and tarot all day and like talking, like being in nature. It's also like, I am talking to a professional, somebody who is like in the science of psychology and like a family therapist. And that whole combo has been what's helped me. It's not just been doing, and everybody has like what helps them. But I do think like traditional forms of therapy get like a better rap now,
Yeah, they do. They get a bad rap because a lot of people see it as a business, and in psychologists, I think the negative connotation associated with psychologists is that they do things to get you to keep coming back, you know, and you wish, like, I think most folks wish, like, okay, can you heal me in 3 sessions? You know, like, like,
Talk about doing the work.
Is there a end date to this, you know, or do I have to see you for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
You know? And that's what I've experienced, you know, going through therapy. Is just, okay, I understand it. Like, thank you for telling me I'm self-aware. Great. You know, like, that's great.
Now
you know,
what?
but why are we already scheduling our next session already? Like, come on, like to be focused on what's happening in my life right now, you know? And I just felt like it was more of like a cycle for me personally, rather than like, okay, this person is really intentionally like invested in me healing.
Yep.
You know, and I always think of, like, you know, the medical industry, you know, being a business, you know, like that kind of thing too. But I agree with you, Stace. Like, there is some benefits to, you know, the professionals, you know, they throw some gems in there every now and then that, like, that spiritual work just can't do, because
like
there is such thing as like toxic spirituality, you know, or toxic positivity.
100%. I'm glad you said that, because it's so
we
true.
Talk about that, yeah.
We talk about it because I'm like, I have seen it where people, I'm like, I mean, mostly in like my professional place, like, would like see people that talk, and then I see them at work. I'm like, yo, you are a dick. Like, you are an actual jerk, and
you're not listening to me,
right? Like, and I'm glad that you also brought up like being able to like get to the place where you're, you know, you're unbothered, because I'm not there yet. You know, I feel like I just choose to not put myself in situations where somebody's going to be at a place I'm going to be, and I'm going to be like annoyed by them, or it's going to be like, just go away. You know, because ultimately it's like, well, you should be able to be in someone's, we're always in someone's space that's could be potentially annoying as fuck, right? Like,
whenever I get those feelings of like, I don't know, like annoyance, anger, you know, irritation, you know, I immediately check in with myself. You know, it's like, okay, why am I feeling this way? You know, like, but it turns in, I mean, it relates back to the whole, like, is it me? I'm the drama, you know? So it's like,
it is us. We are the drama when that's happening.
Well, then
well, being able to say, like, okay, does whatever I'm feeling, whatever this person is feeling, does it even belong to me? You know, like, or even though they didn't ask for consent, you know, if I had any space to receive what they're about to dump on me, you know, like, this person made an action, you know, but is this action have anything to do with me, or does it say more about this person? But this is just more, I'm explaining like the awareness now that I have. So it's been a really long time since I've been like genuinely irritated with somebody, you know, because I was like, well, okay, like, it didn't need to go there, but it sounds like we need to unpack something here, you know, and like, because I this has nothing to do with me. You know, I'm not going to react negatively to this because it has nothing, that energy doesn't belong to me. I go, but because I'm a firm believer that human beings only act from 2 spaces, you know, from love or fear. You know, if you're truly acting from love, that means you're doing love acts. But a lot of the frustrations that people have in their lives, or when they get mad, or if they get embarrassed or something like that, they're usually afraid of something I've learned, you know? And so I ask myself that, okay, I feel this way. What am I afraid of? Oh, I'm afraid of being seen, or I'm afraid of coming off as, I don't know how to handle my money, you know, or I'm afraid of coming off as like, I don't know how to run a business. Like these are the thoughts that I'm afraid of. And
interfering thoughts,
but they're the thoughts that are the derivative of an action, of a feeling that I'm checking myself to see if I'm allowed to feel this right now. You know, like, does it match the situation? And if it doesn't match the situation, 10 times out of 10, it's because I'm acting from a place of fear. And so I try to kind of check in myself to see, what am I afraid of in this moment for me to feel this way? You know, and when I'm acting from a place of love, it's more like, okay, this feels fluid, I'm flowing, you know, it's not about my ego, I'm genuinely helping someone else. It's for the bigger picture, it's for the community, you know, and so I tend to gravitate towards things that make me feel that way, you know. But as soon as I feel something in my gut or in my heart, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this way for something, you know, and it's usually because I'm afraid of something, you know. So to kind of realize, to take that whole notion and apply to other people who are being the drama, you know, and I'm just like, wow, I wonder what they're afraid of, you know. Why are they so mad? You know, why are they coming at me like this? I wonder what they're afraid of. And I'll straight up ask them if I have that space. I was like, wow, I hear you, thank you for sharing that with me. I understand how frustrating this can be, but I'd love to know, like, what are you afraid of? What would be the worst case scenario? And then they like kind of step back and they're like, wow.
Damn, this boy got my number.
I know, like he's clocking me right now, so. And so this is really new for me. And I've learned that it's been working in my life lately, to where like I don't internalize how people are choosing to react based on their own fears.
Yeah.
So much more compassionate. Like that's such a more compassionate approach to anything. And it makes you feel better at the end of the day.
Because I can walk away and enjoy the rest of my damn day, and not let the situation like affect me by having like huge compassion for everyone. And realizing that everyone is going through something or has gone through something that causes them to react in a certain way based on, personal experience, trauma they've experienced, like I do the same thing, and you were talking about attachment styles earlier. A lot of the attachment styles I do have are because of trauma I experienced in the past.
Yep.
So, and it has nothing to do with that person, I can only check myself and realize the work I need to put in and the things I need to do differently to get a different type of result I've been getting in the past.
When I love that you said with the fear, like touching on that is literally, I think that's been the topic for Melissa and I, a lot of when we, spend our romantic weekend away. Like I definitely, as I'm growing older, I feel like I'm turning into somebody that does make decisions out of fear. Because, saying there's so much trauma and like I've lost family members to addiction and I've dealt with family members that have addiction. And so it's like, once you deal with that, I think in your own friends or family group or chosen family group, it's like, okay, I know like what can happen, even though this person is sober. And so I'm going to do everything I can to control this because I'm terrified of losing them. You know what I mean? And that's really something with like my own journey in this summer, with us taking the summer off that I've been trying to tackle. And just like, I even had somebody read my cards and tell me like, you need to stay out of a fearful place and come from a place of love, So it's like, that's my own journey. And that's my, like rolling into my question. Have you had that experience with any friends or family members where you're like, they're just fighting your journey so hard that it's like, okay, I'm going to like love you from a distance. I am going to just like let the situation go.
Yeah. I mean, my immediate family, I'm the closest to Coley, and my immediate family still holds on to an older version of myself, to the point to where like, I don't even like going to my parents' house anymore, because I don't like how I feel when I'm there. Because when they look at me, they see an older version of me. And so the only thing I can do, for them to still be in my life is to love them at a distance. And I think about any time they have any kind of animosity like towards me or anything like that, of course I still ask that question, like, what are they afraid of? And what comes to my mind is they are afraid of like having to look within themselves, to like forgive that version of me, and holding on to that version of me for as long as I can justifies why they treat me a certain way still to this day. So I'm just like, I don't have any control over that, so I can only love you at a distance, and I don't have any fear around my family. I just try to love on them. I love on them the best way I know how, but it sucks because I'm met with resistance because they're not in a space to receive my love languages or the way I express my love. They don't have a space to do that because it's filled with this older version of me.
Yep.
So it's tough. It's really tough. And lately the universe has just been showing me all these signs about like family and brothers and stuff. I'm just like, man, like I miss my family. Like I really miss them. Yeah. And I reminisce on all the fun times and stupid times and laughs and just funny situations and road trips and stuff, and so I'm choosing to cherish that and hold on to that. And I'm being very patient, and I'm trusting that the opportunity will present itself for us to all come together again. I'm just really hoping it doesn't have to be something catastrophic for us to kind of come together in that way. Because usually like deaths or something like that usually bring people together, but I want to be able to come together without that happening.
I even feel like in that moment it's ingenuine too, though, because I've experienced a lot of death in my family in the last 5 years, and it's everybody gets together and it's like we're gonna be better, but then it just people who aren't ready to heal themselves or or meet you at a point that you're at, like it's like it never happens.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and in my experience, it's never changed either.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist, like
Yeah.
I want to make.
You're like Melissa. I'm like,
Yeah, I want to believe there's a version of this life that we can come together and it can be like beautiful, but it can be beautiful in a way to where like we have the courage to lay the shit out and talk about it and heal, rather than just sweeping it under the rug and be like, all right, can we just let bygones be bygones,
Yeah.
So let's hash it out. Let's talk about some shit. Let's create space for each other.
That older generation wants, they want to let sleeping dogs lie. We that's another common thing we talk about. It's like, we've all had our own traumas, and it's hard because you want to love and accept your parents for who they are the same way you want them to love and accept you for who they are. Yeah. But it gets really challenging when you're working. Some of the older generation works harder to fight not dealing with what they have going on versus just like entertaining how much better life could be.
Yeah. How good can it get?
Oh my God. It's like, I feel like I'm like in such a good place. And I'm like, this summer we've done so much work on ourselves, and I'm like, it's just getting better. Like life can only get better.
And it would be so nice if our family was with us too.
Yes.
Yeah. And right? I think that, like, honestly, that's one of the main reasons we wanted to do this, was just having conversations, putting it all out there, because I just had a conversation this morning about just like the fact that people sweep stuff under the rug and they just want to move forward without, like, there's still like a pile of trash under that rug. Like we can't like move forward yet. We need to like, we need to talk about that and make sure everybody feels good. And I feel like I kind of bucket this healing process into, prior to my healing journey, it's like me thinking about what's right and what's wrong, and then going in those directions. And that could just be like conditioning from childhood. That's the direction you take, and maybe religion or whatever. But now it's like, I try and bucket into what feels good and what doesn't feel good. In simplest terms, does that feel good? Because that's probably coming from a place of authentic love and going to lead to authentic love. And if it doesn't feel good, it's probably not going to lead to that. And so to simplify everything, it's like, does it feel good or does it not feel good? And that's what I ask my friends every single time somebody comes to me. I'm like, does it feel good or does it not feel good? Because that's going to be your answer.
Yeah.
When I think you said in the very beginning, like the learning to say no and like creating those boundaries, because I think when we talk about like being in situations, you're going to have to be in, and it's uncomfortable for me. Like I really had to face in my 20s and early 30s, when I was put in uncomfortable situations, I would overdrink. I was that asshole that would just get hammered. I mean, 99% of the time people couldn't tell because I'm pretty much the same Stacey all the time, but
like I'm drunk right now.
Yeah, I'm actually hammered right now, but like then the next day it's like I'm missing out on a whole day of anything because I just didn't deal with what I knew I was going to feel, and I got wasted, Now
look at us growing, man. Like this.
God, we're so grown up.
Wow, look at us.
It only took 40 years, but it's okay.
Yeah. Better late than never. And I love that. And I love the fact that like we're like being the ages that we are, the generation that we are, to be on that cusp, between like, the boomers and the millennials, like we're like this beautiful generation to where we got to play outside. We got to, experience the benefits of the internet, and I think that's why like we are like so focused on being human, and kind of redefining what that means, or remembering what that means, because I really feel like we're not reinventing the wheel here. I really feel like we're remembering who we are as a species, and it only took all this catastrophic shit to happen, in order for us to get to where we are today as humans, and realizing that we have this large capacity for love, and that capacity can be externalized to other people, but equally being able to give it to yourself, and redefining like what that looks like to folks, but to be human, to be a human being.
You're speaking our language right now.
Yeah, like to
And
be
other
a
shit.
human being, and other shit, like I think it's up to everyone listening to define what that means for them. Define what love means. Define what being kind to yourself means. Define the life you want to live. The type of human you want to be in this world. Pinpoint the human beings who are living authentically in your life and gravitate towards them. Tap them on the shoulder and be like, how are you living your life? That's your secret. Because I know 10 times out of 10, those people will be like, let's get some tea, roll our sleeves up, and let's get into it.
Yeah.
So humanity, man. Like, humanity is such a beautiful species. And I don't want to think of it as the species that's a virus to the earth.
Yeah.
That's the one species that's killing it, but it's the one species that can actually like pump life back into
and heal it. Yeah, 100%. We are totally capable of healing ourselves and the people we love around us if we just take the time. Gosh, that's my question too. So with doing all this work, like for people that are going to listen to this, what do you recommend? Like, what's step one? Like, do you have professionals you go to? I know we already heard about your friend, but was this just your own journey? You kind of navigated yourself, or did you seek out like external help?
It all came to me, right? So I started my practice with journaling and mantras, right? For 2 or 3 years straight, I would say a mantra every single morning before I even opened up my eyes. And yes, it started off small, but then like as the years progressed, it would like take a minute for me to actually say it. And I would say it like before I opened my eyes. And I even said it, I say it to this day. I say it every single morning, and then I'm very intentional about it as well. I talk about like, I'm choosing joy. I release what no longer serves me. I don't chase, I attract. I attract an abundance of X, Y, and Z, like those kind of things, and so to answer your question, I didn't really seek it out. It all just came to me because those were the vibes and stuff I was putting out into the world. So first step would be whatever people are comfortable with, even coming up with a small little mantra in the morning. You can do it when your eyes closed laying down, or do it to your reflection in the mirror, whatever floats your boat, and do some journaling. I find journaling a way to kind of keep up with your life. Because when I don't keep up with my life in terms of journaling, and when I do journal again, it feels like I'm catching up with my life. So I always kind of want to be present and in that journey. And then I would highly recommend folks to try meditation. It can be any kind of meditation. I usually like self-guided meditation. And time, I challenge myself for setting an alarm for 10 minutes, right? And I would just sit there, eyes closed, and I would just focus on my breathing, like in through my nose and out through my nose for 10 minutes. And that's it, and that was about 1.5 years ago. And then now I meditate twice a day for an hour each, and it's so calming. And the goal isn't to meditate until I go blank. It's about intentionally allowing myself to be silent, to let the thoughts flow in, and to let everything that needs to flow naturally, and right before I hopped on here, I meditated for an additional 30 minutes over here, just to get in the space and be intentional about, the type of human I want to be present in this moment, and those are some of the things that I do right before I meditated, setting an intention for the meditation. Okay, hey, a lot of shit happened this week, like I just want to work through everything I went through in this day, or what just happened, or what I'm about to experience, and set that intention and then go from there. And then I discovered breath work. Breath work is what actually helped me do longer meditations, because in the breath work session, we are taught, we are taught that we breathe wrong. So it teaches us to go back to our breathing at birth. Think about when a child is breastfeeding. They don't breathe through their mouth, they breathe through their nose, right? So it's to get back to our childlike breathing of in through your nose and out through your nose, not in through your nose and out through your mouth. Because in through your nose and out through your mouth puts the breath in the chest, which is a derivative of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're breathing from your belly, from your gut, from your diaphragm, and in through your nose and out through your mouth, is the best way to kind of oxygenate your blood, to get that oxygenated blood flowing to your brain, so you have that clarity, right?
Yeah.
I have known a handful of doctors who are leaving the medical field to do breath work.
Yeah.
Encarnacion, the one who I've been doing breath work with, she was in the pharmaceutical industry for 10 years.
Wow.
And chose to leave it because she learned the derivative of a lot of people's ailments was the way they were breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And learned that when people started to breathe the correct way, they were healing themselves
Mm-hmm.
from all of their ailments and getting off medication, you know? So the more society and the world trains us to breathe the wrong way, the more I've learned, the more grip they have on us in terms of control.
Yeah.
And buying into this business of the medical business.
They want us on drugs. I mean,
They
that's
want
just,
us on drugs. They
Yeah,
want us on
they
drugs.
do.
And
and not the ones that we want.
no.
I'm not passing out mushrooms.
Yeah.
That's another podcast for which I can totally speak on as well. Okay. But yeah, so breath work and doing that on a regular basis and just going back to the breathing we were subconsciously doing right when we came out of the womb. You know, with the breath work, I have more clarity. My food tastes better. Sex is better. You know, like all of these things are better just because I've learned how to breathe the right way again. And it's in through your nose and out through your nose, not in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Okay, I feel good because that is how I breathe, I feel like, except for when I sleep. Yeah. Okay, I have to tell you a funny story because I'm like dying.
Yeah.
So we have a mutual friend who was trying to teach us. We went camping. I don't know if you've ever been to Fort Bragg, but like talk about a spiritual experience.
Oh, Mendocino up
Yes.
north, like driving up through the tree. Oh, yeah.
We went camping like on the beach last year and we were like, this is amazing. And then we did it again this year, equally amazing. But our friend tried to do breath work with us. Mind you, we had been, day drinking. It's camping.
Yeah.
We'll see. You have to finish this part. It's so funny.
Ultimately, Stacy passed out. she was snoring during this breathwork session.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you asleep?" She's like, "No, I'm breathing."
So every time we talk about breathwork, that's literally what I think of. Because it's the same with meditation too. Like Melissa, she's a G. She did like a 10-day silent retreat. I'm like, nice. Oh my gosh, like how are you quiet for 10 days? Like I feel like everybody's always like, you can do it. I'm like, no,
you know who I am.
Yeah, 10 days. I was like more worried about the sitting than even the not talking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that was
Like,
hard to say. I think Matty just like convinced 100% of our listeners when he said breath work leads to greater sex.
Yeah, that's all you need to say. Like
they're like, we're trying breath work.
Yeah. Okay, so we're doing breath work now,
like,
guys.
You could take that a step further and start exploring like tantric, because tantric is all about the breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So like if any of you out there trying to have a spiritual experience,
Here's my number.
It's gonna get up. Yeah, but yeah, once you get that breath work down and you're breathing with your partner, like this is literally a conversation for another episode if you want to get into that. Yes. But learning tantric breathing and that tantric connection, it's about the breathing and the spirituality first, and then the sex just makes it better. There is like a lot of negative connotation that comes along with that, but I highly recommend exploring.
Is there with orgasms? The fuck is what?
Yeah.
What we should do? Have another episode, have you talk about it, and then interview former sex partners of yours.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
Tell us how it was.
He said, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. But yeah, so breath work, and then simultaneously I was doing I was doing like Reiki sessions with Reiki masters. I was doing sound bath journeys and sound meditation and intentionally creating space for folks to do ecstatic dancing and all of that. So it's a whole culture, which I know exists in Sacramento too. But I'm learning it's been prominent here in Stockton for a really long time. So as I got into it, I'm learning that there's folks in like their 60s and 70s who've like been doing this work here in Stockton for so long, but they're finally saying like, oh my God, it seems like the community is growing, and I'm just like, yeah, like it's because we're sick and tired of being sick and tired and we want to heal, and we were learning that things like this and being in this type of community and doing this type of work on ourselves is actually helping us, and we want everyone in our community to feel the same way. So, I can get deeper into all of those things, but what I highly recommend is folks just seeking out breath work, because that's kind of like the catalyst of it all. But if that's something that you're not, you want to do some more research on, totally do that as well. But things that you can do by yourself in the comfort of your own home is, doing a little mantra, and doing a little journaling, and it doesn't have it's for your eyes only. And then what I suggest, and this is what I kind of do, I do two versions of how I write in my journal. I'll usually just jot down what happened in the day. And then sometimes when I'm trying to get more introspective and kind of plan for the future, I write in a perspective as if I am my higher self and I'm writing to my current self to let them know like what my life is gonna be like, in
I like that.
a year from now. I'm like, I'll write like, bitch, you have no idea like what you're about to experience. On these so it's
your own hype man.
Yeah, I'm my own hype man, so I get excited about that because it's pure creativity. It's pure like orchestrating my own life, and me coming up like with the potential of what my life can become. And it's fun. So I highly suggest that too. Like just hype yourself up, dream big, be delusional about like what you want your life to look like. And the best case scenario is that it actually happens, and then the worst case scenario is that like some of those things happen. Singers, in order to hit the note they're trying to hit, they have to think of the note higher, right? So in order to hit that note they want to hit. So
it's a great analogy.
Yeah, and it's the breath. It's all the breath, and even the breath work has actually helped me like love exercising. Like a motherfucker runs now. Like, I run, and I love running. That is so weird to me. And I'll run like 2 or 3 miles like a couple times a week, and like I enjoy it now because I breathe in through my nose and out through my nose while I'm running, and it's just I'm getting that runner's high that people used to talk about. I'm just like, wow, this is.
I've never experienced that.
It's so crazy. And of course, when I first started, I'm like, oh, what the hell am I doing? But as I was being consistent with it, I learned like, hey, this is a way of being kind to myself because I love the way I feel after. Yeah, maybe shitty at the very beginning, but I know like I'm putting this in the section of being kind to myself. And and I think that's kind of all the things that I touched on my Instagram. I mean, on my Facebook post, like just the breath work, the meditation, the Reiki sessions, the art, the exercising, and realizing that may not work for everybody. That's just working for me, and just having the courage to share that, with the world and with the interwebs. Like that was a lot for me because I used to like thrive off of being elusive. Like being this elusive Scorpio that like figure out, like.
Yeah, wait, when is your birthday again?
The 5th of November.
Ooh, I'm November 9th.
Oh, you're a Scorpio too. I forgot. I totally forgot. Yeah.
And my friend Jeannie too. We're very Scorpios.
Oh, yes.
Very Scorpios.
We're very Scorpios.
Well, Matt, this is so amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Like this is
you are literally just like, this is the example of like how good life could be. You know what I mean? Like people listening to this, especially like kicking off our season. I feel like you just did like a whole episode on what our mission statement is, which is amazing. Because we really do want to just tap into like being understanding and promoting like health and promoting like loving yourself and loving the people around you and not allowing like the state of our world to get to you because fuck, I know it gets to me,
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the world is, there's always going to be evil shit in the world. It's having the courage to act despite all that shit.
Yep.
You know, and being from Stockton and being from this area of California, like it's inevitable. You know, when you see shit around you all the time, you're like, fuck, dude, like, yeah, this is shit, but I don't have to be the shit. You know, I don't have to contribute.
I mean, you are the shit.
I am the shit, but like I don't want to like have to like contribute
You don't have to be
that shit, you know. And I just want to inspire as many folks as possible, you know, to change the perspective on life and allow that space to, you know, to challenge life on how good it can actually get. Like motherfucker, show me how good this thing called life can get before I'm not here anymore.
Yep.
You know, and if you have a gift, share it with the fucking world.
Yes.
You know? And keep sharing it until you can't share it anymore. You know, and just be fucking human. You know.
Yes.
Like,
okay,
so
plug
lucky.
your shit. Plug your shit.
Oh, okay. So if you're looking for breath work, follow the Catalyst. I think it's the Catalyst 924, I believe, on Instagram. It's a health and wellness center that's on Yosemite Street. Yosemite Street is an up and coming community, which is super beautiful. They have like new restaurants. They have community cleanups. They have like these planting sessions and stuff. Super cute. Also follow at _breathe. I think there's 2 E's in it. And her name is Nana Tovar. And she's from Spain. She now lives here in Stockton. And if you want, I post this shit all the time on all my social media. So if you want to follow me at Matt.Amen, at the end of a prayer. And then, those are the main things, you know, and from there I share shit all the time. Yeah. And then, but yeah, and
plug your business though. What about
my business? I own a co-working space called Huddle Cowork, located here in downtown Stockton. Our handles are at Huddle Cowork or our Huddle Cowork plus Create on the Googles. We are an entrepreneurial ecosystem that specializes in being all things small businesses. We kind of want to be a hub for anyone who's just looking to either grow their business or have an idea or anything like that, or just a hub for information for Stockton. Like if you're new to Stockton and you want to know what the hell to do in Stockton is, like just come see me and I will literally like just love on all of you guys and let you know like why this city is so fucking amazing. And again, I am single and I'm an opportunity employer. I'm 41, Scorpio.
Love long walks on the beach.
This is what I enjoy. My love language is.
Oh, he can cook. Y'all.
Yeah, I can cook. My love languages are quality time and physical touch and acts of service.
Yes. All right, I love this. This is a perfect way to start season 2.
I know, I love it. Thank you so much, Matt.
Guys. Thank you. This is an absolute honor. This is kind of the first time I'm sharing all of this, like post that Facebook post that I did. So this was great. And
so we got the piping hot tea.
Yeah. You guys were exclusive, you know? And thank you for
action.
To continue to do what you guys are doing. You guys definitely have a gift on creating this space for other humans to share their story. And I'm really excited for all the folks, all the potential listeners for this as well. For those listeners, if you guys are feeling something right now, like hold on to that shit, like it belongs to you. And now you have a responsibility to share it with your own community and the folks that are surrounding yourself right now. You know, that shit is real, you know, and hopefully you can inspire someone else, you know, to keep paying it the fuck forward.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was amazing.
I am love and we are love, right?
Yes.
We are love. We are the love in the world. Humanity is the love of the world.